So we'll jump to Vegas 2006 and what my game plan was coming into that race. Basically, it was winner take all for the AMA Supercross Championship. And I knew, like going into that round, I mean, I was really, really worried for a couple of reasons. Chad had always gotten the best of me in Vegas. I don't think I'd ever beat him in Vegas. So I had that going against me. I wasn't really a fan of the track. I just never could get with it. So we had that, and then there we were. So I had basically I did like what Chad was able to do his whole career is I talked myself into winning. And I'm like not a big mental guy when it comes to stuff like that. I'm more of like you work hard, you go out there and you execute your plan and what you're supposed to do, you're going to win. Well, I was like literally talking to myself. I talked myself into winning that whole week. I'm like, dude, I'm going there. I'm winning. I'm going to get a good start. This is what I'm going to do. I had an absolutely epic week of practice during that week, which was great. So I come in feeling confident. I announce, hey, this is going to be my last full season, last year of racing full season. Got that all out on the table. I remember waking up that morning. I was taking like my resting heart rate. My heart rate was lower. My resting heart rate was lower than it had ever been. Practice that day went well. And then I remember opening ceremonies. James and I were talking, or I don't know, we were doing something. I just remember looking over at Chad, and he just, like he had his head down on his handlebars. And I remember saying to myself, that guy's off tonight. He is, he's frazzled. I don't know if the pressure was getting to him, but I remember saying that. I'm like, oh, dude. And then, so like everything's all right, everything's good. That we line up for the main event, and he starts on the outside. I believe he did. And I'm thinking, dude, this guy is crazy. He's giving me the inside. It's a 90-degree start. All I have to do is get the jump. If I get the jump, I'm going straight to the hay bales, and I'm going to run him off, or I'm going to push him off the track, or take everyone to the bales so I get the whole shot. But I couldn't believe he was going to start on the outside. I mean, the chances of him, and he'll probably tell you, I was going to try to get a good jump and sweep the outside, which, I mean, that is in my mind, in my opinion, that's a really high risk move. So when he made that, I felt like that was a poor decision on his part, and it didn't work out for him. Skipping ahead, for that main event, my whole plan was if James was in front of me, I was going to try to stick with him as long as I could, that main event. And if I could stick with him as long as I could and ride his pace as long as I could and not get arm pump, I said that will build me enough gap to where we get 10 laps in, I should have a manageable enough gap in front of Chad to where I can beat him. And that's exactly how it played out. As soon as James got up front, I said, all right, I'm gonna follow him. And I could see Chad. Chad was a few guys behind me. I'm like, okay, solid there. I'm gonna frickin' follow James. And so long as I can hold up to him, and if even if I'm just losing like a quarter second a lap, I'm gonna go his pace so I don't get tight. I'm going to ride as close to his pace to where I don't get arm pump, and that'll build me the gap, and that's exactly what happened.
How crazy was your mind going then during this main event? Because like you're doing the math, you're marking Chad, you're watching James's pace, you're thinking to yourself, okay, I just need to not get arm pump.
That's right.
That's a lot going on during a 20-lap main event.
Yeah, there is. Like, I'm trying to do that, and I'm watching James, and I'm watching Chad, and then like he's kind of like he's coming in too. Like he there's times where he's gaining on me, but then there was other times where I had good laps as well, and I'm holding close to James as well. So it's like there's like back and forth, there were times when I'm like, shit, I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it, or wow, that was a really good lap. So then it was like, okay, yeah, I think I am going to get it. And then there'd be then there was a lap where I'm like, oh no. And yeah, I want to say like around lap 15, there was this one section, I think, kind of like when we went back down that first lane where there was a triple, and I started marking, and I started pulling like a quarter second away from Chad every lap, and then I knew, I'm like, okay, I got it now at this point. Now I just don't screw up in the whoops, and I'm good.
Was it weird all trying to pace off James for that race? Because one thing I think, and this kind of falls into another question for you, is James's strength. We all look at him, of course, as at times the fastest man on the planet,
100%.
What he can do on a motorcycle, insanity. So your strategy to race him is you have to push him until he makes a mistake, because he will do it. But at the same time, he's going a pace at which is scary. So your way of beating him puts you a little bit in danger yourself at times. Other than just Vegas, even throughout that whole season, trying to push that pace and run with him to pressure him to make mistakes. How many times during the season are you thinking to yourself, I cannot believe I'm going this fast right now. This is not right.
Not so much of that feeling in 2006, more in 2007. But I've talked about this a couple times. Like I knew there was a lot of, like, James is one of those dudes, if you go fast, he's just going to go faster. So beating him just on raw speed is going to be super hard. So my goal for him to try to beat him a lot of the times are just if I can just run close enough to pressure him into mistake and get him to fall off. That's how I'm going to beat him. Rarely am I going to be able to beat him on speed. And if I did beat him in Supercross, like if he was like sixth, I would say fifth to seventh or eighth place, and I got the whole shot, then I had a good chance to win because I could build enough gap, to ride it out, like build enough gap those first 10 laps and then cruise the second 10 laps. That was kind of my plan and strategy on trying to beat James in Supercross. So, but I didn't really realize the speed that we were going until like 2007. It's like there were those moments where we had, like I talk about Orlando. It's just, man, we are freaking flying. But it was like in slow motion. It's crazy.
Well, even that final main then in Vegas for 06, is that one of those races that just felt like it was taking forever? Are you sitting there going, just please, can the laps just get done? I need this to finish now.
100%. I'm like, damn it. But I was still on pins and needles, even though looking back, I had a decent gap, but it's just like I was just tense. It was slippery. It was hard. You had to be precise. And honestly, we all rode a great race. We all rode a perfect race. I mean, only thing that could have been more perfect for Chad, he would have beat me. But minus his first 5 laps, I feel like he rode great. I rode great the whole race. And there's nothing that I would really change from that race.
So you finish that race, that's the last time you're going to race those two for a championship. But with all the nerves during that race being on pins and needles, do you have that instant deflation feel when you cross the finish line? Like, oh my God, it's all over? Or are you rolling the finish line and the nerves are still high and you're like, is it over yet? Can I not believe it? Like, where are you mentally at knowing that's the last one?
I was like, thank God this is over. Like, I hated those positions. I hated being in that situation. Absolutely. I hated every single bit of it. Yes, I was able to shine being in that situation, but that was the first time I've ever been in that spot. Think about that.
So that's your most tense championship.
Yeah, I mean, you take it all the way down, and I was a little pissed too that I was even in that position, because in all of my championships, I always worked so hard to not be in a must situation, because I didn't know how I would do in a situation like that. So I was still pissed at what happened at St. Louis, how I had that DNF, because I never would have been in this spot because I worked so hard to not be in this position. So I was mad about that too, going in here. So I'm like, gosh damn it, I worked so hard to not be in this position, and then I get, but that's the position I was in because we had the issue to no one's fault. But I'm glad that I was able to answer the bell, and I can look back and say, hey, I've been in a situation to where, I had to win the championship, or had to beat this guy to win the championship, and I was able to do that.
Looking back on 2006, do you regret not being able to enjoy the moment more? Because, like I say, that title fight is going to go down in history. That's not many riders get to experience that and win.
Right.
But it seems like looking back on it, all you can remember is just how miserable you were, how difficult things were, and how you wanted it to be over.
It wasn't fun. There's no part of that to me that was fun. Even how well the night went and the level that we were riding at, like it was great. It was a really good main. It was one of those races. A lot of people say, "What was one of your favorite races?" And I look back, that wasn't my favorite race, but that was a race that I had ridden almost perfectly. I didn't win, but that was there's nothing more that I could have done or asked out of myself. I wasn't fast enough to beat James, but that was the best that I could ride. So I was happy, but I didn't like that. I hated that feeling. So I was glad it was over, man. I was so over it.